Hello, I'm Camille. Welcome to class. I'm so glad you're here. So this is a basic class appropriate for all levels, but especially if you're just starting out. What I recommend for this class is a mat, a yoga mat. I also have some props. If you don't have them now, it's okay, but you probably want to get them. Blocks, simple blocks, a strap, and a blanket. Any blanket will work. So let's start class today by lying on our back into a comfortable place. You can have your legs extended long, or if you prefer to keep them bent, you can do that. I want you to relax here. Put your hands on your belly, and we're going to practice belly breathing. So by that I mean that when you take a breath in, you're inflating your belly as if there's a balloon in there. So you feel it rise, and then exhale. Feel the belly soften down, just like you're letting the air out of the balloon. And then just keep up a nice steady, slow rhythm of that belly breath. I like to inhale through the nose, exhale through an open mouth. So take a couple of those to enable yourself to just come into a relaxed state and become intentional and mindful, so you can focus on where you are right here, right now. And then we'll just start to move. After you've gotten yourself into that good place, bring your knees up and see if you can squeeze them into your chest like you're giving yourself a big hug here. You'll notice this helps to release the lower back. And then you can add some movement if it feels good. I like to rock from side to side. Sometimes I'll move in a circle and go both directions if you're going to do the circle. And just notice what that feels like. So that's the key to this practice and any of these practices, is to help your body get connected with your mind, all parts of yourself connected. So after that, let's just take one knee in, and you can leave the other one bent and on the floor. If you have a strap here, we're going to stretch into the hamstrings. If you don't, obviously you can still do this. You just hold the back of your leg and just wait a little bit until that space opens up. If you have a strap, another thing I like about straps is that it helps you get into the poses without as much strain, as in, you can just hold down lower on the strap instead of having to choke up so much. And maybe your hammies are pretty tight, and if that's so, just work with what you've got right now, right today, knowing that you'll always make progress each time you come to your mat. So the knee is slightly bent. I'm pushing some energy through my heel, and my toes are coming back. And then as I hold this, maybe it becomes a little easier for the leg to start to straighten. Now, if this is not too much for you and you want to add a little bit of hip opening, you can extend your opposite leg. So you always return to that deep breathing to help you get into the pose more, and then we'll come over to the other side. Bring your knee into your chest first, and then extend your leg up towards the ceiling. And, it might feel different on side two. You're not perfectly symmetrical, so if it feels different, that's totally okay and pretty normal. And remember, we're not straining or pulling, we're just holding. Whether you're here or here, just holding and waiting for the body to adjust itself to the position you're putting it in. You can extend your opposite leg if you want to. And then you'll feel that in the hip. Try not to scrunch your face too much. If you're doing this or you're grimacing or clenching your teeth, then you're probably holding it a little bit too forcefully. So let go a little bit. All right, let's take that foot down. And then we're going to cross that same ankle over the knee. I'll show you from this version too. So you're going to flex that foot. So if you're mirroring me, this would be your right leg. And then you're going to take your right hand to your right leg and just gently press away and open that space. Don't forget to breathe out. And then we'll take it up a little bit more if you want to by coming underneath and drawing in so you can feel a stretch in your glute. You could even use this elbow, so your right elbow could just gently press away at your right leg while you're drawing in with the other hand. So you can kind of get a twofer there. And then I always just add a little bit of movement. Be patient with yourself. So wherever you are, congratulate yourself on starting. We have to start somewhere, right? And then from here, we're going to float the bottom foot down, cross the leg over, or you could leave here and then stay here. And then we're going to add a twist. So we're going to come over to, let's see, that'll be your left side. Know that if this feels a little intense, you're either here or here. You don't have to even cross your legs at all. You can stack your knees. Meet your body wherever you are. The twist is happening in the lower part of the spine. So the top half of the body stays pretty anchored on the mat. And then we just hold and breathe and let the spine literally unwind. So we're kind of getting the kinks out. We're also helping to increase, of course, flexibility and mobility. So twisting is a movement that you make every day at some point, right? So we're just doing those everyday movements and making them easier. If you want more, turn your head away from your knees. And it takes a little bit of time and a little bit of breath for that space to open up. When you're ready to come out of it, intentionally draw the belly in to strengthen the core muscles, and then just bring your knees up towards the ceiling. And then we'll take the other side. So now the left leg extends, put your ankle just below your knee, and then the left hand to the left thigh, gently pressing away. And we keep our foot flexed to protect the knee joint. So first here, see how that's going to work. And then we can take the next level by floating the bottom foot up and holding behind right here. Maybe you can clasp your hands, and if you're really, really scrunched up like this, you could even, you don't have to put your hands behind. Just do what you're able to do right now, and whatever that is totally fine. So don't get too worried if everything isn't looking just the way that I'm doing it. If you're new, then, like I said, you just meet yourself where you are. So I'm just kind of drawing in while I'm rocking. Anytime you're rocking your body, you're calming your nervous system. Sometimes we just do that without even knowing that we're doing it. Float that bottom foot down, and now we twist. Take this leg, cross it over if you want, or stay here. With your arms out in a T position, find your twist going the opposite direction. If your legs are crossed, it's going to feel a little more intense than if you just stack one knee on top of the other. And maybe your twist isn't even huge, as in deep. So your knees might come up and not even meet the ground. Go ahead and turn your head the other direction. Don't forget to breathe out. Just allow yourself to be here. Then when you're ready, untwist yourself. So eyes to the ceiling, knees come back. Actually, you could keep yourself here because we're going to sit up. So sometimes sitting up is easier if you're on your side. You're just kind of pressing up. Sorry to turn my back to you. and come into what we call simple seated. So we build a lot of poses from this simple seated position. One of the reasons I suggest a blanket is for propping yourself up. So if you put your blanket underneath your bottom, just under the edge of the bottom, it will help your pelvic bowl, which is right here, tilt forward. Okay, so it'll give you better posture, lifting up through the crown of the head. So whenever we're in the simple seated position, one more thing I wanted to show you is you can put props underneath your knees. If your hips are tight, your knees might be up like this, okay? And you could always do, just one leg bent and one leg straight. So if you don't want your knees to be bent for that long, there's always options for you. All right, so let's just imagine that we could zip up the middle. So think about drawing your pelvic floor up. All right, navel into the spine, shoulders roll up, back, and down. So there's a tiny bit of, not pressure, what's the word? A tension between your shoulder blades, just to open up your sternum, your chest right here. And then slide your chin in. So I like to take 2 fingers, slide my chin in, and then lift up energetically through the top of your head. Hands are just comfortable here. So hopefully you're feeling a difference just from sitting here. When you sit with integrity like this, it's a reminder to yourself, this is good posture. So go ahead and take a couple of breaths. Accept this pose. And maybe find a bonus smile on your face. You're doing really great so far. The good thing about a recorded class is if you're new and it's feeling like a lot, you can always pause, you can always rewind, or you can just pause and hold longer while you get used to it. All right, so after this, we're going to sit back and we're going to just change our legs. So whatever leg you had in the front, put that leg in the back. And then we're going to just do a little bit of head and neck work. So drop your chin to your chest. We're still keeping that tall posture. Drop your chin to your chest. Put your head back to its normal place. And then point your chin up towards the ceiling. I always like to kind of open my mouth and stretch all of those muscles when I'm in this position. You can do that too. Then bring your head back to center. And then we're going to just turn the neck over from one side to the middle, to the other side, to the middle. And maybe you're noticing that your neck will go a little bit further on one side versus the other. Remember, we're not perfectly symmetrical, so that's okay. And then if it feels okay, we'll do a little bit of neck rolling. Be very cautious whenever you are doing your neck rolls. You want to go slow, and you always want to warm up first because the muscles, more like the spine, the neck, the cervical spine is delicate, right? If you've ever had neck pain or injury there, you know what I'm talking about. So you just take it easy when you're going around. And if you find a place that feels tight or heavy, you could just hang out there and breathe and let the space open up on its own. I found a space right there. Then you come right back up to the center so you have your head properly affixed to your body. And then let's see, what do we want to do next? Okay. Let us move out of this position into all fours. So all fours is also kind of like a tabletop pose. Here's another way to use your blanket, is to fold it underneath your knees if you need some more padding. So we do a lot of bone stacking in yoga to support ourselves literally. So hips are stacked above the knees, shoulders are stacked above the wrists, and then I'm fanning my fingers out and turning them to the corners of my mat a little bit. All right. And we're going to do something called cat-cow. It's a great way to warm up your spine further. So what you do first is you drop your tailbone down, you curve your back, and you let your head drop towards the floor. So your eye gaze is between your knees. This is where you squeeze the breath out. And then we go the opposite direction by lifting the tailbone up, belly down, heart forward, and head comes up. So this is called cow. This is where we breathe in. And then we're just going to go back and forth between the first position, which is known as cat. You look like a Halloween cat here. Breathe the breath out, squeeze it out, and then reverse the other direction. And take all the breath in, fill your belly up here. And I want you to take this a few times at your own pace. This helps to increase flexibility again in your spine, helps to add synovial fluid to your joints. Your spinal column is synovial joints. It's more than one joint, it's lots of joints. Okay? So that synovial fluid helps you move friction-free. It's this egg white-like substance that glides over your joints. So the more you move, the more you can move. All right, find yourself a nice straight position after you've done a couple of those cat-cows. I'm going to turn side on and teach you another pose called gate pose. So we're going to come up onto our knees and then extend one leg out to the side. Okay, so imagine that you have like little suction cups on your feet and you can sort of suction cup the ground. All right, and now tuck the tail down and lift up through the crown of your head. So from here, you can lift your arms out to the sides, you can lift your arms up over your head, and you can just tilt over. So this is a nice side bend here. You feel that stretch from your armpit to your hip, and you could rest your hand right there on your leg, preferably on your thigh or your calf. You never want to add extra stress to your knees. Lift yourself up, and you can lean over to side two. You could even put your hand down and lift your foot up if you want to get kind of fancy. So that's gate pose. We'll come down with the hands down and just switch over so the other side gets a chance. Foot down, leg out. You're already feeling that stretch, right, on the inside of your leg. And then we'll do some side bends here. As you lift your arms up, make sure you slide your shoulder blades down so you're not jamming up into your ears. Still keeping that straight line and coming over to the side. Hold for just a minute. Lift up, breathe in. And then exhale over to side two. Maybe come down, maybe lift up. Like I said, there's always different options for you to try. So if one option doesn't work, or if you just are not sure you're ready for that pose, no worries. Okay, so come back into all fours. Coming back to the side here. Our next pose is down dog. So tuck your toes here. Lift your knees up off the mat. This is an arm balance and an inversion. So you lift up the knees. You press the belly back towards the thighs. And see how I shifted my weight from here to here. So this might be enough for you right here. If you've got more, you can start to stretch out your legs. Extend your legs, lifting your tailbone up towards the ceiling. And you're looking back at your feet. So think about your ears coming in between your biceps. Think about really pressing strongly into your hands and your arms. So like I said, this is an arm balance, and this is a good way to strengthen your arms. Down dog is a great way to strengthen and stretch your wrists, your ankles, to strengthen your core, to help your hamstrings. You're probably feeling that. In fact, let's do this. Let's do a little bit of pedaling here where we can stretch out each leg. First one and then the other. And don't worry if your legs look more like this. All right? We're just building the foundation of this pose. So it takes time if you've never done it. And maybe you try it and then you come down. You take a breath, and then you try again. All right, so from our down dog, we're going to move our feet. I'm going to move that out of the way first and just start to walk forward. I'm going to tent my fingers, although I have to tell you, you could do your down dog on your blocks too, and that brings the floor up closer for you, and then maybe it's easier to do your forward fold here. Be sure with your forward fold that you're keeping your knees bent. This is really important to prevent any kind of injury and the backs of your legs. So let your head hang, eye gaze between your legs. Take a couple of out breaths here. And then we'll just hang and let all the tension just drain out through the crown of your head. If you feel like you want to move a little bit and just kind of wiggle that out, you can do that. And then we're going to make our way up, turn towards you, into a standing pose. So remember, knees are soft, belly's kind of snuggling up against the thighs, and then you use your hands to gently walk up. Okay, so I'm coming up and just curving my spine and then stacking one vertebrae above the one below it. I want to stand up so I can see you here. So we're coming up back to standing. So walking, 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 and now we're standing up straight. Our next pose is called mountain pose. And just like we build a lot of poses, seated poses from simple seated, it's the same way with mountain pose. So you want to look down at your feet and you want space between your feet, like maybe 1 or 2 fists, between your arch, maybe just one. Okay? And then we stack again. So think about stacking your shoulders over your hips, over your knees, over your ankles. Slightly bend your knees and then tilt your pelvis so that your tailbone is facing towards the ground. All right, so when you did that, you probably noticed that the fronts of your legs turned on. You might have noticed that your belly felt a little bit stronger right there. And then shoulders stack above, the hips. Everything's stacking and strong and straight. Then we slide your chin in. And then I like to put my hands forward in this pose because it helps me remember to keep my shoulders down and back. But, there's different ways to do mountain pose. You could put your palms together here. You could put your arms out. So many ways you can do this pose. But we'll start with this one. And then we're going to come from here into a tree pose. Remember, I said everything is built from mountain pose. So step over to the side. Let's come onto the left leg and then put the ball of your foot onto the mat. And then if it's available to you and you think you can try this, slide your foot onto your lower leg. All right, so here is one option. This is called low tree. If you want to see if you could slide your foot up higher, come up above your knee and try high tree. Just like with mountain pose, there's different ways to do your arms. But it is helpful to bring them out to the sides. So palms up or down. And then whenever you're doing a standing balance pose, it's helpful to put your eye gaze in one place. All right, because a third of your balance has to do with where you're looking. All right, go ahead and float down. You did great. Let's try side 2. Another thing you can do with these standing balance poses is to stand next to something like a wall or a piece of furniture. So we start low and then we come up a little bit higher and then we see, can we come up a little bit higher? All right, and then we try different things with our arms. This is cactus arms. It's kind of fun. And maybe you try high and then you're like, okay, that's not going to work. Another one you can do is palms to the heart. Remember to keep your gaze in one place. And as you practice my classes more, you'll start to hear my cues, and there'll be times that you can just listen and you'll know what to do. All right, very good. Awesome. So that's mountain pose, that's tree pose. Let's do another pose called horse pose. With this pose, you want to turn your toes out to the upper corners of your mat, spread your feet apart, and then bend your knees. So kind of looks like a squat, right? Tuck your tail down in case your butt's sticking out. Want to keep that long spine. And then you can take as much or as little of this pose. So maybe you just want to bend your knees a little bit. Or if you really want to get into it, bend a lot. And try to draw your knees out towards your baby toes. So our tendency is for our knees to kind of fall inward. So press out, and then you'll feel your quads sort of turn on here. And then you always want to make sure you can see your feet. So if you're doing this, this is more like a plie. You want that bone stacking. So knee over the ankle to protect your knees. All right, and then you can add different poses here. You can do cactus pose. You can do big V here. And I'm just moving because I like to move. But you can just be still. And then we'll come out of that. Oh boy. So I usually like to do some tapping after horse pose, just because my legs are feeling it a little bit. Let's go from here to chair pose first. So with chair pose, feet together, we're starting in that mountain pose, except sometimes you want to bring your feet closer to each other. And then you want to set your butt back and then bend your knees. Okay? So imagine that you have like a bar that you're just folding over, and then you're bending into it. Lead with your bottom. So stick your bottom back there. The weight should be in your heels. So if your toes are gripping a lot, you probably need to shift your weight back. And you can just do a tiny bend here. This is called stool pose. So you decide if you want a lot or a little, or if you want to do it for a second and then come up. All right, so you can add your arms reaching in front. You can reach them up a little higher, so your body makes like that lightning bolt shape. Hands to the thighs. Stand up. Good work on the chair pose. Step back and let's find a warrior pose. So this is warrior one, where you turn yourself towards the side wall. In order to do that, I'm going to suggest that you put your hands on your hips, and then you turn your hips so that your shoulders are over your hips. And you might notice that from here to here, I had to move my back foot. You want to move your foot so your knee doesn't get tweaked, right? And if you're trying to turn and you can't quite get it, take your back foot wider and your front foot wider. You need a bigger base. All right, and then you can decide how much you want from warrior one. You can bend your knee a lot. Again, we want to stack here, so make sure that your knee's over your ankle or behind your ankle. And everybody's different. Some people will do their warrior one with their legs closer together. Others will prefer to take their foot back more. So you need to just experiment a little bit and see what works for you. And then arms, arms up overhead. Arms can be on the hips where they were. Arms can come down, like sort of at an angle, or you could clasp your hands together for that warrior one. And then whenever you need a break, you come out of it. All right, let's just reverse and come over to the other side for warrior one, side two. So hands on the hips, turn yourself to the side wall. Make sure your feet are wide enough to be a nice stable base for you. And then bend into that front knee as much or as little as you need. Checking your posture, looking down. Can I see my toes? Yes, I can. And then draw this back muscle up. So I always say lift the kneecap up so you can really activate that back leg. When you start doing warrior poses, you'll find that they're very empowering. And they also work your legs and your feet, okay? You get stronger by doing these poses. And then, of course, when you add the arms, even more. I'm putting them into a big V here. You can also put them right into your heart. And then there's other variations that you'll learn later. To come out of the pose, you just straighten your front leg, and then you walk, 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 walk. All right, let's see what else we're going to learn right here. All right, I'm going to teach you warrior two. So warrior one, legs are apart and our hips are turned. Warrior two, our torso is facing side on. So shoulders stack above the hips. And then we just bend. Our feet are pretty much in the same, like the toes forward on the one foot and at the angle with the other foot, except they're lined up more. You remember how we had to spread them apart to turn the hips? Well, on this one, shoulders above the hips. Drop down. Okay. Drop down a little bit more. And then bring the arms long. Okay, you can lift up that front hand if you want. You can look down. Your eye gaze for warrior 2 is to look down that front arm. And then one more, sun warrior. Float the bottom arm up and lift the top arm, or the arm you're pointing at. So your eye gaze can be up at the hand or down a little bit lower. Float your hand down, straighten both legs. So that's warrior 2, sun warrior. It's a common flow. And then we turn to the other side. So walk your feet the other direction, taking care with your knees, and then bend into that warrior 2. Usually your front heel and your back arch will be about lined up. Shoulders above the hips, and then arms long. And then take as little or as much as you want. When we're coming into that sun warrior, I like to lift that front palm up and reach it back towards behind me. And then you can choose to come down lower or not as much. Float down, come into 2 straight legs. Great work. So you did chair, you did warrior 1, you did horse pose, you did warrior 2 and sun warrior. Doing great. Let's go back down to the mat, as in sitting down. Come onto your back so we can finish up strong. When you're on your back, eye gaze at the ceiling. Arms along your sides, knees are bent, feet are slightly separated. And then we're going to tilt the pelvis a little bit by lifting up the tailbone, pressing the lower back down into the floor. All right, to do this, you want to keep your thighs parallel so your legs are going to be activated as you make that change. Can you see? So here's neutral, and then I'm kind of pressing into the floor with my feet, tilting so the tailbone is up, and I feel some pressure in my quads, lower down. So that's the beginning of bridge pose. And I'm going to go a little further just to show you. You can stay here with the initial pelvic tilt, or you can continue on if that feels okay to do. When you're doing any kind of a back bend, because this is a back bend, you want to keep your eye gaze at the ceiling and not turn your neck. That's important. Arms are along your side, so we're pressing into the feet, tilting so the pelvis lifts, and then lifting one vertebrae at a time off of the mat. So I can press into the mat with my upper arms to help, and then I'm going to lower down. So just a couple times. When you're coming down, one vertebrae at a time hits the floor. When you come to the bottom, relax for a second or two, as in relax your glutes. Let's try it again. Press into the feet, squeeze your thighs together to create that leg strength, and then lift the tailbone up and continue up a little bit more. Maybe you can go a little bit higher. Press your chest into your chin, only as far as it feels safe. I promise this will get easier. Maybe you're not used to this. Maybe you've never done it. That's okay. You might just be watching for now. All right, when I come down, I kind of relax that a little bit. Take your arms out, and then bring your feet together, and then just let your knees kind of wave from one side to the other. You always do a little twist at the end. Call it final spinal to reset your spine. Feel free to linger in a longer twist if you want to. And then we'll just find a place to breathe for a short time here. In a normal class, we would do this part a little bit longer, but just giving you a sample of what to expect. So we come here, just like we start out with breathing, we end up with breathing as well. Nice and full, bringing our awareness back to where we are right now. Your arms can be wherever they're comfortable. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Fill up your belly with air. Let your muscles soften into your mat. So instead of clenching and tensing, with each breath that you take, let go a little bit more. When you're ready, we start to come back. And like I said, that part is usually a little bit longer, but we're just doing a sampler today. You can bend your knees, roll to the side, and pause here. So the getting up process at the end, especially when we're in that corpse pose, that shavasana longer, coming out of it, you want to be intentional and not too sudden. So come on to the side with your knees bent. Feel the floor beneath you. Notice where you are. And then when you're ready, you can continue up into seated. Legs are crossed. Spine is straight. You can feel free to slide that blanket under the edge of your seat if you like. Then we sit nice and tall to remember our good posture. Shoulders back, chin in. Close your eyes. Just let everything kind of settle up from up in the busy thoughts and brain down lower. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. Take a breath in. Arms up, palms together, and then exhale right into the heart. And we say Namaste, which means the spirit within me honors and sees the spirit within you. Thank you so much for being here and trying this level 1 sort of beginner's class. And I will see you soon. Have a great one.